electricity, no air conditioning, just 40 degrees Celsius, woolen clothing, and a stone house. The sun beats down, there's no breeze to be found, and the day's work won't wait. So, how did medieval people keep their cool? While we might groan at the idea of a broken fan or a too-warm office, people in the Middle Ages had no such luxuries. Yet they survived and even thrived through blistering summers. From the hills of Provence to the streets of medieval Cairo, they found creative, practical ways to adapt. In this video, we'll explore 10 in-depth ways medieval people stayed cool in the heat without a single watt of electricity. 1. Stone architecture and the cooling power of earth. In the age before insulation, air conditioning, or even glass windows as we know them, medieval builders had to work with the materials around them. Stone, though slow to warm and even slower to cool, became a surprising ally in the fight against the heat. Its density provided natural insulation, absorbing the sun's rays during the day and releasing the heat only gradually, often after nightfall. The effect was most evident in castles, cathedrals, and monasteries. Massive buildings with walls sometimes up to 2 meters thick. Inside, these spaces stayed markedly cooler than the scorching temperatures outside. Even simple peasant homes in warmer climates, like Spain or southern Italy, employed thick adobe or stone walls with few small windows, offering crucial shelter during midday heat. Some homes were partially underground or built into hillsides to take advantage of the Earth's naturally stable temperature. Others incorporated shaded alcoves or windowless storage rooms that doubled as cool refuges for rest or food preservation. In wealthier towns, courtyards with high walls provided enclosed, shaded environments that captured breezes and radiated cool air inward. These passive cooling strategies may seem primitive today, but they were highly effective and remain foundational in sustainable architecture. In an age where survival depended on one's ability to endure the elements, building cool, dark, and stable dwellings was both practical and essential. 2. The Linen Revolution. Dressing for survival. While medieval fashion might seem uncomfortable by modern standards, people in the Middle Ages were far more practical than we often give them credit for, especially when it came to summer clothing. Linen, derived from the flax plant, was the fabric of choice during warmer months across much of Europe and the Mediterranean world. Its fibers are hollow, which helps wick moisture and allow airflow, creating a natural cooling effect. Peasants and nobles alike recognized linen's benefits. Laborers wore simple linen shirts and breeches that could be soaked with water for additional cooling during fieldwork. Nobles, while more richly adorned, often layered fine linen chemises beneath wool or silk garments, ensuring that no fabric directly touched the skin except for breathable, soft linen. Contrary to modern assumptions, layering wasn't necessarily counterproductive. Multiple thin layers helped protect the skin from the sun and trapped pockets of cooler air, regulating body temperature more effectively than a single heavy garment would. Light-colored fabrics were also preferred, reflecting sunlight rather than absorbing it. Tailoring also helped. Garments were cut to allow movement and airflow. Wide sleeves, split skirts, low necklines, and open sides were all common in warmer regions. Some tunics had slits under the arms for ventilation. Women wore their hair braided or pinned up to keep their necks cool, while men often went clean-shaven for comfort. Clothing wasn't just about protection, but also expression. Many added floral waters or herbal infusions to garments to mask sweat and offer aromatic relief. Early examples of both perfume and comfort-enhancing textile care. 3. Labor rhythms, early starts, and sacred rests. Medieval life was deeply influenced by the sun's position in the sky. Without mechanical clocks, the rhythms of labor followed a natural cadence. In summer, the heat dictated a change in daily routine. People rose with the dawn to begin work in the cool of morning, long before the sun became oppressive. Whether farming, crafting, or building, most heavy labor was completed by midday. Afternoons were a time of rest. In many parts of Europe, this meant a pause in the workday during the hottest hours. Fields emptied, markets closed, and city streets fell quiet. This wasn't laziness, it was a calculated response to the dangers of heat stroke and exhaustion. In southern regions, this rest was often formalized into a daily routine that bears a familiar name today: the siesta. Religious structures supported this pattern. Monastic life, governed by the rule of Saint Benedict, included a midday break following the 6th canonical hour. Sext, allowing monks to nap or reflect. This tradition spilled over into wider society. In cities, bells marked the hours, helping people keep time with the heavens. Even in northern climates where the heat was less extreme, long summer days meant people took breaks between stretches of work. The idea of pacing one's energy was embedded in culture and survival. Heat could be dangerous, and people of the Middle Ages knew it well. 4. The art of shade, natural canopies, and built shelters. When the summer sun reached its zenith, the search for shade became a daily ritual. In the Middle Ages, creating and maintaining shaded spaces was as important as having shelter itself. Every village or manor had designated cool areas where people could gather, rest, or escape the sun's direct glare. These included large trees, the overhanging eaves of thatched roofs, church porches, and the protective arcades of monasteries or town halls. Trees, especially linden and chestnut, were purposefully planted in communal areas, not just for beauty or fruit, but to offer generous, leafy cover. In wealthier homes, gardens were designed with shade in mind. Vines grew along pergolas, wooden trellises lined walkways, and high walls enclosed leafy courtyards. Water features, fountains, pools, and channels amplified the cooling effect. Portable shade was also a mark of nobility. Nobles traveling in caravans would set up tents with open sides to catch breezes or carry parasols made of silk or fine linen. In Islamic cities, cloth awnings were stretched between buildings to shade streets and markets, while in southern European towns, similar fabrics were used during festivals and holy days. Shade wasn't merely for comfort. It protected skin from burns, slowed dehydration, and gave eyes a break from harsh light. Whether crafted or grown, shade was one of the simplest and most essential elements in the medieval toolkit for surviving summer. 5. Bathing culture and the cooling power of water. For medieval people, water was a source of life, but also of relief. In hot weather, people flocked to rivers, streams, fountains, and bathhouses, not just for hygiene, but to beat the heat. In cities and towns, public fountains were central meeting points where locals could splash water on their faces, soak their feet, or fill jugs with cool refreshment. In Islamic cities like Damascus, Cairo, or Cordoba, the bathhouse, known as the hammam, was an architectural and social staple. These complex facilities featured cold rooms, frigidarium, warm rooms, tepidarium, and hot rooms, caldarium. During hot months, the cold section became especially popular, and the process of bathing became a restorative ritual. Europe, too, had bathhouses. In Paris and London, wooden bathhouse structures lined riversides and were frequented by all classes until concerns over disease saw their decline. In the countryside, villagers bathed in nearby streams or shallow ponds. Monasteries, often built near rivers or springs, had designated places for bathing and ritual washing. Some abbeys even had internal plumbing systems of lead or stone that diverted running water through their cloisters for both aesthetic and cooling effects. People also utilized rudimentary evaporative cooling techniques. Water would be sprinkled on stone floors or clay tiles, and as it evaporated, it would absorb heat from the air, offering a temporary reprieve from the stifling atmosphere. Water storage jars were wrapped in wet cloth and placed in shaded areas to keep drinking water cooler for longer. Bathing wasn't just about staying clean, it was one of the most accessible ways to cool down. For medieval people who understood water's calming and purifying properties, it was also an act of health, community, and spirit. 6. Diet adjustments. Eating to beat the heat. Medieval diets weren't just shaped by religion and harvest, they changed with the seasons. When the summer sun bore down, the heaviest foods of winter were set aside in favor of lighter fare. Meals became more focused on fruits, greens, and moisture-rich vegetables. Cold dishes were favored, and preserving perishables became a top priority in warm months. Cucumbers, melons, and leafy greens were prized not only for their taste, but also for their cooling effects. Physicians of the time, trained in Galenic medicine, believed that these foods helped balance the body's humors during hot weather, especially yellow bile, which was thought to cause overheating. Salads dressed in vinegar were considered cleansing and hydrating. Soups, once thick and hot in winter, became broth-based and were often served at room temperature or cool. Fermented drinks also played a role. Light ales, mead diluted with water, and herbal infusions like mint or sage were common. Pasca, a Roman legacy that mixed vinegar with water and herbs, remained a popular drink among laborers. These beverages weren't just refreshing, they were safer than raw water from questionable sources, and their acidity helped quench thirst. Cooking moved outdoors whenever possible. Clay ovens and open fires were built away from the home to prevent heat buildup. In urban centers, bakeries and cookshops prepared food that residents could buy ready-made, reducing the need for home fires entirely during the hottest periods. 7. Monastery. Engineering and passive cooling. Medieval monasteries were not only centers of faith and learning, they were also hubs of ingenious engineering. Especially in warmer climates, these religious complexes were designed with both contemplation and comfort in mind. Their architecture incorporated elements that naturally cooled interior spaces and promoted airflow. Thick stone walls and vaulted ceilings created interiors that stayed consistently cool throughout the day. Cloisters, open-air walkways surrounding a central garden, provided shade and space for prayer or rest, often with a fountain or water channel at the center to humidify and cool the surrounding air. The symmetry and geometry of monastic buildings were deliberate, ensuring sunlight and wind moved through the complex in harmonious patterns. Some larger monasteries had water diverted through aqueducts, bringing fresh spring water directly to kitchens, gardens, and bathing areas. These systems functioned like early plumbing and helped maintain cleanliness and temperature control. Underground storage rooms or wine cellars used geothermal insulation to preserve perishables and provide cool resting areas in peak heat. Monastic routines also encouraged sustainable living during summer. Work was divided into early morning and late afternoon shifts, and silent reflection replaced vigorous activity during midday. Spiritual discipline and physical survival went hand in hand. 8. Strategic ventilation, letting the air flow. Long before mechanical ventilation, medieval architects understood the importance of airflow. Buildings, particularly in warm climates, were carefully designed to channel breezes and flush out hot air. Openings were placed high on walls or near ceilings to allow rising warm air to escape, while ground-level windows could be opened to pull in cooler drafts. Latticed wooden screens or cloth curtains were often used to diffuse sunlight while maintaining ventilation. In southern regions, especially in Islamic architecture, mashrabia, wooden latticework over windows, provided privacy and allowed air movement without direct sunlight. Towers known as bad gears or wind catchers captured high-altitude breezes and directed them into homes in desert climates like Persia and North Africa. Even rural homes employed practical methods. Doors were aligned for cross breezes, and roof vents helped reduce trapped heat. Lofts or upper windows were left open at night to release warm air and let in cooler night breezes, while shutters or fabric blinds were drawn during the day to block the sun. Fabric played a big role. Damp cloths were sometimes hung in doorways or over window openings, primitive evaporative coolers that offered momentary comfort. In wealthier homes, these fabrics might even be perfumed or dipped in herbal water. 9. Seasonal mobility, moving with the mountains. For some medieval communities, surviving summer heat meant escaping it altogether. In mountainous regions across Europe and the Middle East, people practiced transhumance, the seasonal migration of herders and their flocks to higher elevations during the warmer months. This annual journey wasn't just about pasture. The highlands offered cooler air, clean springs, and relief from the pests and diseases that flourished in the heat of the valleys. Families built temporary shelters called alpages or chalets, using stone and timber, often returning to the same sites every summer. Shepherds spent months in these cooler elevations, producing cheese, maintaining meadows, and tending livestock away from the searing sun. The nobility followed a similar pattern. Wealthy landowners who could afford it would retreat to summer manors in the hills. Even some royal courts, like that of Aragon or Burgundy, migrated between seasonal residences. This strategy required community coordination. Villages planned grazing rights, supplies, and routes in advance. The knowledge of where water flowed, where shade gathered, and where animals could safely graze was passed down through generations. 10. Mental resilience and cultural adaptation. Perhaps the most underrated tool in the medieval summer survival kit was mindset. Unlike today, where comfort is often expected, medieval people lived with the seasons and shaped their lives accordingly. There was no expectation of indoor coolness or temperature control, only a need to endure, adapt, and carry on. This cultural resilience was built into daily life. Festivals took place in the evenings, markets opened early, and entire societies slowed down when the sun was at its peak. Faith played a role too. Fasting, pilgrimages, and penance were often practiced in summer months, giving meaning to discomfort and channeling suffering into spiritual purpose. Communal bonds helped. Neighbors shared shaded spaces, water sources, and meals. Elders passed on practical wisdom: when to work, what to eat, how to dress, and where to rest. People didn't resist the heat. They respected it. From linen tunics to wind-catching towers, medieval people met the heat with creativity, tradition, and practicality. They lived not in opposition to nature, but in response to it, an approach that holds surprising relevance in our warming world. Would you try any of these medieval tricks during your next heat wave? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this look into the past, don't forget to subscribe for more stories of medieval survival, ingenuity, and everyday life.